Folks, if you watch my channel or the daily financial news, you know that I spoke about the All In podcast over the weekend, really highlighting something that David Sachs is going through with his commercial refinancing. But in their same All In podcast, they had this conversation about the war on poverty. What I want to do here is talk about the war on poverty and where it really starts. I want to show the chart that the All In podcast referenced and really have this discussion. In order to do this, I'm going to have this discussion with Mr. Dion from Dion Talk. How you doing, buddy?
Howdy. I'm doing great. I'm actually curious to see where this goes, having been somebody who grew up in poverty, lived in poverty, escaped it, reached financial freedom, and retired early and never have to work again. Because, and I don't know where this is going yet, so this is just an assumption. And when you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you assumption. So I try not to do that. I think most people will look at a chart like this and look for an excuse to not take action, to say, oh, there's a reason I'm poor. Instead of
the system is rigged. The system is rigged. So why not? Let's just cut to the chart so we can get these discussions going. So let me share my screen. Hopefully it's still working. I think I can make this bigger. So Dion, can you see this?
Yes.
So basically what they were talking about is this was income by different quartiles. And obviously some have gone up, some have gone down. This is 2019 versus 2020. Actually, it looks like they've all gone down. But the income thresholds are very different, right? The people at the bottom, green, are basically flat to down. The next quartile, down, down, down. Once you get to the blue quartile, right, you're the top, I don't know what that is, quintile, so top 20%. You've seen some significant one. But the top 5% have seen the lion's shares of the gains. Does that make sense in the chart?
It does. And I'm wondering what information they use to show this. So it's household income, so probably tax returns.
Yeah, this is from St. Louis Fed. It doesn't say on this, but this is from, the Census Bureau. It's source Census Bureau changed from $2020, 1967 to 2020. So it's a legitimate source. Basically, they were using this chart to talk about, when you see this, you can do one of two things. You can look at this chart and say, hey, tax the rich, take from the black line, take from the blue line, and give to the other four. That has been governments, that is socialism, that is all these other things. Where these guys spent a lot of time, and let's be clear, all four of these guys are deep in the black line. They're in the top 1% of the 1%. I think their average net worth is 9 figures. So they make you and I look broke. But the idea is all of these guys started in the green or orange, right? And you and I started in the green, and if there was a line below the green, that's where you started, right? I mean, your story is one of coming up from literally very little. So,
right.
I think the answer for war on poverty is our school system sucks. That's where this all starts, in my opinion.
So what I like about this is nationwide, right?
Yes.
Okay. Correct. A lot of the affordability index right now, I think, is flawed because of remote work. If you're we're living in San Francisco and you move to Boise, Idaho, you went from probably barely being able to afford everything to being one of the richest people in the area. Correct. Just because you can work remotely. Mm-hmm. The thing that is missing here, I think, is how they track the data. And here's an example. I'll just use myself as an example. Last year, worked for a CDL school. Was president of the company. Made 6 figures, right? So I'd be in the blue chart there. This year, 2023, 0 income, but multiple 6 figures of profit in rentals that is going to look like 0 because of depreciation and write-offs. Yep. I think so. This is just looking at people's wages, where the biggest flaw in our education system is we teach people that to make money, you should work for it. And working for money is the dumbest way to make it. And every time I say that, the short-term thinkers say, well, if I don't work for money, how do I have any? Well, of course you work for money. But if you have to figure out how to put the money to work. And those people in that 250, 450 range, and the people talking here that have the 9-figure net worth, they don't have a salary that's creating that net worth.
Yeah, when I went through this, and I thought about this for a few days because I saw this on Saturday, I knew we were talking Tuesday, and I know your story, right? And my story, frankly. I think the school system produces employees. They want you to work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%. That is success for the school system. I think a war on poverty, if we want to go there, has to incent entrepreneurship. right? I was raised, and I still feel, and I've admitted this a dozen times and will do it a dozen times more, like an employee. However, I left the workforce at over 6 years ago now, started something called One Rental at a Time that is now a multiple six-figure side hustle. And I wish I would have known this when I was 18. And I think we have to encourage entrepreneurship. The other thing that I think is crazy, for generations, certainly Gen X, we were taught if you don't go to college, you're a failure. You're a freaking failure. Today, given our workforce, you can graduate high school, get a GED, go get a trade, and make six freaking figures. We need to encourage entrepreneurship. It needs to be ingrained in our school system. That it just simply needs to change, in my opinion.
One of the larger flaws with that education piece is the idea that most people think the more educated you are, the more you're going to make. And so there's a position on military bases to help transitioning service members, people getting out of the military. So to work in this position to help somebody getting out of the military get a job and land on their feet when they get out, it's a Soldier for Life Transition Assistance Program counselor. Requires a master's degree.
Wow.
Starts at $31,000 a year. So absolute respect for the people who got that educated and took the position, because they are giving back to service members, helping soldiers come out. Yeah. But I've interacted with them for over a decade running the CDL school, because it was also a transition assistance program. You could get your CDL and get out and have a trade. I worked next to those counselors. What do you think the number one complaint from every one of those counselors was? I don't make enough.
Yeah.
So you knew what the position paid.
Yeah, it's probably public record, I would guess.
Correct, right. And so the same thing when somebody says school teachers are underpaid. So this is okay. I'm gonna piss off half the people that watch your channel.
Oh no.
The school teachers that I know are overpaid.
Oh,
I have a brother and a sister-in-law that both make six figures as teachers. I have a friend who has a spouse that moved here from Colombia and teaches English, Spanish, and is just under six figures, right? There are areas where teachers are underpaid. It just happens that the ones that I know are overpaid.
Yeah. Your sample size of 3. Okay, fair enough. Right,
sample size of 3. It's just this little tiny not counting test. But a kid grows up hearing their entire life teachers saying, we are not paid enough. So then that kid turns into an adult that goes to school, gets in a lot of debt to take a position that they've spent 20 years around hearing this position doesn't pay enough, and then get in the position to complain that this position doesn't pay enough.
Yeah.
If money is the motivator for what you're doing for work, there are other paths.
Yeah.
It can be the college degree that gets you the job that pays really well. And those exist. It can be the trade that pays you really well. It can be growing a company that pays you really well.
Yeah. If I was a political fish, in the political game, which I have zero interest in doing, my whole metric would be war on poverty. It would basically be, it's time to break the school system that Vanderbilt built to produce worker bees that go on the Ford manufacturing plant, that follow orders and show up on time. I would change the curriculum, probably right in high school. I think junior high, the basics is fine. Again, one man's opinion. But in high school, we would be encouraging everywhere entrepreneurship. We would be encouraging trades. And hey, if you want one of those careers that needs a college education, great. But we would not say, if you don't go to college, you're a failure. How many people are sitting on degrees that aren't worth it, that would have been happier taking a shot at something? Not only did they get debt, but they lost 4 years that they could have been building something. Or worse yet, they got debt and didn't fucking graduate, and they left after 2 years. Are you freaking kidding me? So war on poverty starts in high school. Enough said. We need to change it, or we're not fixing the system.
So here's the thing. This is probably a topic for another video for you sometime for another day. Not only do we need a war on poverty, but it is expensive to be poor.
Absolutely.
On average, we have a little over $15 billion in overdraft and non-sufficient fund fees. Who do you think is paying those? It's not the people with a lot of money. Who do you think gets audited the most by the IRS? People with the average person is tricked into thinking, well, if you make a bunch of money, they want to catch you cheating. No, person making a bunch of money affords a CPA, has a CPA handle the audit. They're less likely to be audited. So it's the people who make less than a certain amount that are more likely to be audited by the IRS. It's expensive to be poor. And people think, well, I can't afford to eat at the restaurant where the meal's $30. So I'm going to go to McDonald's where it's $15. Well, it doesn't cost you $15. It costs you your health. That's why it's one of the reasons why it's expensive to be poor. Who has better health care? And there's a weird reversed bell curve here where wealthy people get good health care and extremely poor people get state-sponsored good health care. But the middle class, companies choosing healthcare, private individuals choosing healthcare often make mistakes. I agree. I think we need a better war on poverty, one that works better than the war on drugs. It would be great. And it does start with education. And the proof that it starts with education is there's probably, because they got to this far in the video and they're probably going to go and take the comment out, people who pounced on us saying how important their college degree was in the comments when we were talking about it. Because the education started young, that the education is needed.
Well, you know, if you want to come at me, guys, I have an advanced degree in MBA and undergrad in econ. We can have that conversation. I, again, think if you have a plan and you see a return on investment, go for it. My age group, Gen X, my opinion, we were told if you don't go to college, you're a failure. Too many of us went to college. Too many of us got degrees that do nothing. Too many of us have debt. And if we had to go back and do it again, I'm guessing a lot of folks wouldn't. So pretty interesting. So Dion, where can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Thank you, buddy.